Hey guys, this is Nick again, bringing you back to FTW Craft for another episode of Minecraft on an atomic level. I've been doing some work around here on a new shop, and it occurred to me about midway through construction that, I don't know, some of you guys might be interested in seeing the fruits of my labor. I think, well, let me say, there's been a huge explosion in shops around here. Like for instance, we've got Blues Tunes over there. We've got the saloon being built over there. We've got Garvin's shop and taco shops. Uh, Rebel Dreams diamond shop over here. Just all kinds of shops springing up left and right. And I figured, hey, why not jump in on this? So wool and colored wool hasn't really been cornered yet. And considering what Garvin's done with the signs in his shop, I think there's something of a demand for it. So I figured I'd sell that. And to kind of go with a clothing store angle, I decided that I think I'm going to sell sets of dyed leather armor as well. So that's my angle for that, and I've even come up with a name for it. The store will be called Abercrombie's a Bitch. Because, Abercrombie and Fitch is just a horrible place to support with your money. Yeah, I think that's well documented by now. But my my personal views aside, um, you see, I'm even working on the sign here, taking a cue from Garvin with the lettering style, with the uneven layered construction. So yeah, more on all this later. As you can see, I haven't started on the interior yet. Just lit up to make sure nothing spawns in here and kills me while I'm working on this thing. But yeah, that is my construction at the moment, and more will follow as I get closer to completing this thing. So stay tuned. Okay, so there's been a little change in plans. I've decided, well, let me take a step back here and open my fence. Essentially, you're looking at a big old blank space where once there was a shop. And basically, the reason there's a big old blank space here is because I've moved locations, and the move was necessitated by size constraints. And you look at all this space here, and you don't really think, man, that's a small space. You can't really do anything with that. Hopefully somebody will make use of the space eventually, but for my purposes, specifically setting up a sign, kind of like Blue has for his shop with Blues Tunes or the Chop. It turns out that making a musical note and making 4-letter words is a lot easier to do with wool blocks than 3 words, one of which is fairly long. So, since my shop was set up right on the edge of the road here, which also happens to be where the supports for the Skyrail are, that produced a size constraint, like I said. And rather than take the time to tear down and move these supports in order to fit the whole sign in, I decided it would probably be easier for me just to pick up and relocate. So let's head on over to where the new shop is. There it is. Not far to walk at all. So now I'm behind Blues Tunes rather than in front and to the side of it. Between that and this thing here, which is Joe's relatively new shop. It's called I'll get you in front of the sign here. Zeus's Lingerie and Melons. And contrary to the name, it does belong to Joe. Basically, it's sort of a clothing store. He also sells watermelon there as well. I'll leave it to you to draw the appropriate conclusions for what Joe is trying to go for there. But yeah, this is where I am now. And in addition to changing locations, I've also changed the name of the sucker. I've changed it to Spacies. Now, you might wonder why Spacies. Well, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the store chain Macy's. And this is a play on that, except it's called Spacies because in between the various item vendors where you'll make your purchases, you'll also find quotes from Kevin Spacey movies. So that should be fun for everyone involved. You'll also see here, it's closed for construction, which is why it's blocked off with dirt blocks, so that nobody can get in, especially with the claim that I've set up on this area now. The reason I set up a claim is that if you are current with the drama that's been going on, you'll understand why we claim stuff now. And it's almost required now if you want to keep your stuff intact. Basically, if you're not current with what's been going on, we've had a dispute between two of the members here, Dave Chats and the Lynch Clinch. Essentially, see the shooting range over there, that little dealie there? Well, between there and the saloon, Dave Chats built a windmill, and it was pretty nice from what I saw. But some little mishap, which we believe was conducted by the Lynch Clinch, and it was pretty convincing evidence that he was responsible for it. The windmill burned down, and the windmill was not claimed, so that's why it was able to be burned down in the first place. And we were actually going to hold a wrestler's court to determine what would be done about it, but eventually they settled out of court. Except things aren't really settled between the two. There's been little arguments and disagreements back and forth, but all of that boils down to the fact that we have to be pretty on top of things when it comes to claiming our property, or bad things may happen. Whether it's intentional or not, it's gotten to the point where if you don't claim something bad will almost inevitably happen to your stuff. So that's why I've claimed it. That's why I blocked off the entrance here, just so that in case anybody comes along and wants to check things out inside, they can't accidentally break stuff and whatnot. But getting back to what I was saying, the reason it says closed for construction is not because I'm still building stuff, because essentially the actual construction is done for the most part. I'm probably still going to put up a wool block sign, Spacies across the top of there. But other than that, construction is really done. The only thing holding me back from opening this sucker up right now is production, specifically making the blocks of colored wool that I'll be selling, and also obtaining enough sets of leather armor to dye various colors and then sell it on the open market. Turns out getting that much wool and leather armor together and then getting enough dye with which to color it takes a lot of time. So I'm in the middle of doing that. Fortunately, I've got a large enough herd of sheep that I'm covered on that end, and we've got a practically unlimited supply of dye in the market. As long as you can pay for it, you can get as much as you want. So that won't be an obstacle for too much longer, I'm hoping. And it won't be too much longer before Spacies is open for business. So, yeah, stay tuned for more on that end. Okay, this hasn't been officially announced just yet, but I believe the shop is ready for business. And you may notice looking at the sign here, something is different again. That is because the shop name has changed. It is no longer Spacey's, now it is Fluffy's. And the reason for that is I believe I got Kevin Spacey confused with somebody else entirely. And it turns out the quotes you can find from Kevin Spacey movies really don't tend towards humor, and they don't fit very well on a sign anyway. So when I was thinking of who else I could model the shop after, I remembered one of my favorite comedians, Gabriel Iglesias, and his nickname is Fluffy. So since I'm selling colored wool blocks, I figured that's perfect. So that's what I decided to roll with, and the brand name is Fluffy. Like you'll see the various clothing lines, Juicy, that you'll find on various parts of female anatomy. Here you'll find Fluffy. I think it's a lot more family friendly, and that's nice. So let's take a look inside. Here's the interior. It's got a little bit of class to it, I think, with the redstone lamp chandeliers and the red carpeting. I experimented with a few different colors of carpet, red, blue, black, but I think red goes best with the birch wood, with the coloring and all. Over here you'll see I've got all the colors of wool on this wall and on that wall over there. And you'll see that for trade I'm accepting iron bars. Now, if you remember from my last video, I showed you guys my ranch house, and I mentioned that I'm currently replacing the floors and walls with iron blocks. So this is just a means to facilitate that. And you'll see a few different signs down at the bottom too. Those aren't for trade. Those are the aforementioned quotes that I wanted to include in the shop. And they're just quotes from Gabriel Iglesias' comedy specials, or a couple of them are from his episode of the Steve Austin show, where he sat down with Stone Cold Steve Austin and had a nice little chat. It's really interesting. You guys should really go check that out. But I won't showcase them all because a lot of them are... You kind of have to see the specials themselves in order to get the punchline there, but I'll show you guys one. These are Gabriel Iglesias' 5 levels of fatness. There's big, healthy, husky, fluffy, and bam! So anybody that's seen the specials will get that and have a good chuckle while they're perusing the wares here. Over here on the back wall, there's just some example pieces of dyed leather armor. And the reason there's just examples and not any for sale like I have with the colored wool here is, frankly, I just didn't have enough room. I wanted to keep the items confined to these 2 levels in between the dark oak logs. So I figured I'd just showcase a couple of suits, and if you want to buy a suit, you commission it here. And we'll open up this book here for details. If you want dyed leather armor, just write down your order, the quantity and color of each piece of armor you want in the book and quill. Make sure you leave your name and payment, and I'll deliver your order to your mailbox. Now, in case you haven't been following Garvin's videos that he's been putting up on the channel, we've got... Well, everybody here on the server has a mailbox. And it's useful because if you want to trade with somebody and they're not around on the server at that particular time, you could just take what you're going to give them, stick it in their mailbox, and you can just walk away, log off for a little bit, and when that person comes on, he'll find the stuff in the mailbox, and he'll give you the stuff he's going to trade and put it in your mailbox. So it's really useful for everybody involved. So how that pertains to me, you fill out your order, leave your payment in the chest, and I will make the order that you commissioned and deliver it straight to your house, to your mailbox. Very convenient for everybody. So we'll just stick that back in here. And here are the prices that I mentioned before. 1 iron bar each for boots and the headpiece, 2 iron bars for the legs, and 3 iron bars for the chest piece. And even though I haven't actually opened the shop yet, I have already had one order filled. And that was Garvin. He asked for a set of black leather armor, and this was before I had the prices set, so he just paid in ender pearls, which I will happily accept because travel by ender pearl is fun. So that is Fluffies in a nutshell. And real quick, I'll just show you the upper level here. This is basically just my storage area. This is where I keep the extra pieces of leather armor for future orders. Kind of just an extra supply, so I don't have to go out of my way and make an individual set every time somebody wants to fill an order. And this is just where I keep my extra dyes, some leftover wool pieces. And I've got a little hidden... Daggum. I've got a little hidden entrance that is supposed to open when I flip that switch. Okay, that flipped. There we go. Yeah, chopping out the wood blocks, the ghetto escape, if you will. If you've seen my past videos, you'll notice that it's become something of a trend. And it's not a particularly convenient one. It's one I gotta break pretty soon. And the nice thing about being here next to the fountain is that I can land in the water and not hurt myself. That's convenient. Okay, so that is Fluffies. That'll do it for today. So give the video a like if you enjoyed what you saw. Subscribe if you want more from me, Garvin, and the rest of the FTW craft community. I've been hearing lately that there are other guys making videos. Blue has finished at least one video that I know of. I think he's just going through some quality control, so stay tuned for that. It sounds like he's got a really interesting project that he wants to show you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing it right along with you. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Comment below with praise, criticism, or whatever you want, so long as it's related to the video, or so long as it's related to Fluffies or anything you see in there. Go ahead and let it fly. If you want to find me personally, you can find me on Twitter at AtomicDeke, same as my username here on FTW Craft. You can find all of us on Facebook at the WWE and TNA Fans FTW Podcast Group. To join the server, look for our Facebook group FTW Gaming, the branch community of the FTW Podcast. And you can submit your username there, and we'll give you a look and we'll whitelist you. So that's all from me. Have a good one, folks.